That's okay.
You have them now. We're going to do anger, hostility, and conflict.
Anger.
Yeah. Very angry. And then you get to talk to Wendy afterwards about mindfulness and Zen. So I think you might have it better than the other group, who should have Zen this morning and talk about anger later. This, though, is something you will encounter. So we have anger, hostility, and conflict all together. So patients get angry. Occasionally they get hostile. But conflict is across the board. It's not just with patients. It's with bystanders. It's with nursing staff. It's with everyone. It's with your own partner. So a lot of things we talk about here, they're transferable to more than just, oh, you have an angry patient. I don't know if any of you actually look at the news, but about a month ago, a Oakville firefighter, and I can name everything because it was published in the news, assaulted 2 of our paramedics on call due to conflict, and they decided to become hostile and assaulted 2 halted paramedics and was arrested and spent 2 days in lockup and is now going to go to jail because of this. Well, let's say, I'm sure it'll go to trial first. I'm sure he's not going to plead guilty, but he's never going to be a firefighter again because you can't twofold. One, if you have a criminal record, so if he gets convicted, you cannot be a first responder. And secondly, though, even if this turns out to be he gets off on the charge, he's not going to be employed by that place anymore, and no other fire department is ever going to pick him up as a new employee. And he's a captain. It was the captain. It wasn't even like a new recruit. He's you can look it up in the news. You can see his name. It's
Did it say why the attack them?
because, and I'm not allowed to talk about it because it's an ongoing police investigation at this point. I can tell you personally, 100% warranted that he went to jail. And absolutely not okay. So, assault is never okay, right? Especially assaulting someone that you're working with. But how many of you came to the assumption in your head that it was a female that was assaulted? It's a natural thought to think something like that. I can tell you that this was a lift assist call, so low acuity. And the first thought that came to my mind was fire got up in arms about like, oh, you're not strong enough to do this stuff. That's not even what it was about. It's actually like the dumbest thing. So personally, I heard the story and I thought, roid rage. I've seen it before, especially firefighters who decide they're going to jack up their muscles, take some steroids, and then get roid rage. I've seen it in a paramedic before, rip their shirt off because they got angry in a meeting with management, and literally, like, has anyone seen roid rage before? It's insane. He's being told that he did something wrong. He's like, and rips his shirt off. He's like, fuck you! And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Oh, you're fired now. We were just here for a meeting because you got in trouble, and maybe you would have gotten suspended for a day, but now you're fired. You just threatened the life of our chief. So, actually, it wasn't Paulson. It was, but like, it's highly amusing to me because it's so ridiculous. Anyway, so we're looking at the fact that this can go beyond just your patients. Why is it not doing it? There we go. So we're going to talk about sources of it, how it manifests, some de-escalation techniques. We're going to differentiate between passive, aggressive, and assertive behavior, talk about assertiveness. We're going to do a lot on approaches to the violent patient, and look at some mental health act stuff. And then we're going to talk about use of restraints. So, everyone gets angry. And we have to remember that anger is just an emotion. It doesn't have to lead to negative outcomes, but usually it does. If you look at someone like William Wilberforce, he witnessed the atrocities of slave trade in Britain, and then it was his anger and outrage that motivated him to actually begin the long and difficult process of getting slavery abolished. So, can anger have a positive outcome? Yes. We often think of it as a negative outcome, but years and years and years later, they finally abolished slave trade. So, sometimes anger can work in a positive way, but we have to think of it just as an emotion brought on by fear, threats, obstacles, or offensive situations. Annoyance is just a mild form of anger. People get annoyed very frequently. Resentment is when you chronically have this long-lasting form of anger. And hatred is an intense anger, animosity to a particular person or people. So, this is the president of the Halter Paramedic Union. She was in the news early on in COVID. So now we're like a few years in. People are a little more understanding, but you can imagine the first couple of, okay. I'm not saying that they're all understanding. We still have a lot of conflict when it comes to donning PPE in terms of calls. So this is still extremely relevant. I will say that it was almost every single call in the first 2 years of COVID was a major issue. So you get called 911, emergency, whatever it is. It could be anything from someone fell and hurt themselves to this person is VSA. It does not matter what the call is. Before you enter that scene, you have to put on your PPE, and you do it outside of the truck. How do you think it goes when the family's screaming at the doorway and you're standing outside spending 3 to 4 minutes putting on all of this stuff and checking your face mask seal and making sure that you're okay to go in? Not well. So the amount of times family would come down and start screaming at you in your face, like, you have to come in now, like, what are you doing? Get in there, they're dying, something like that. Like, we use the VSA as the big example because that's when family's usually most upset, but broken bones and stuff like that, they still would come up and scream at us. Or if someone's in a seizure, right, and they're like, no, they're dying. So you have to explain to them that this is for your safety, but also their safety, and that you're actually not allowed to come in without it. They're like, I don't, like, it's their family members, so they're like, we don't care. Get in there now. Save them. So you have to say, like, okay, we just need to put our safety equipment on before we're able to come in. It just takes us a minute, we'll be right there. And they don't like it, they get really angry, they start yelling at you, like, what do you mean, they're dying, you won't help them, get in there, they need your help. So you have to stay calm and speak slowly and reassuringly. We understand your concerns, we're very sorry that there's a short delay. For your protection and ours, we aren't allowed to come in until we have this equipment on. We'll be there as soon as we can. Hopefully that's the end of it. If not, you get things like, you don't care about my husband, or you pieces of shit, get in there right now. So notice the difference between those statements. Someone that says you don't care about my husband would get a response from me like, I know you're very concerned about him, I assure you I am too, but I absolutely cannot go inside until I have all of this on. For everyone's protection, we're doing the best, we'll get there as soon as we can. Later, if there's time, you can smooth things over with family. I find that later, the smoothing over process usually helps you not get complaints, but it'll be a later process. So, unfortunately with COVID, everything's changed for everyone. All of our practices are changed. How we practice now is different. Usually following up by some summation that their loved one's doing really well, or something how we're doing everything we can, we're gonna get them to the hospital and they're gonna get the help that they need. Now, hospitals are allowing family members in again. But remember, there was a time where no one was allowed to go to the hospital. So now you're saying that they've screamed at me because I was putting on PPE, and now I'm going to whisk their family member away to the hospital where they're not allowed to go. Now imagine this patient has COVID symptoms. That means the entire family is on isolation as well. And so they're like, well, I'll come to the hospital. And I have to say, like, this is inside voice, Amy. Fuck no. You're all in isolation. And they're like, no, I need to go out. Fuck no. You're all in isolation. So what you actually say to them are things like, unfortunately, you're all exposed, you're all in isolation, we have your phone number, the hospital will call you, you're more than welcome to call the hospital as often as you would like for updates. And you can take the patient's cell phone and the charger. Never in my career did I think there would come a time where taking a patient's cell phone and charger would be on the top of my list of important items to take, right? Like health card, meds. And then COVID happened, we're like, cell phone charger. And legitimately, oh, and family member's phone number. Like, these weren't things we cared about before. So, at the second statement, you pieces of shit, you don't care about anyone but yourself, get in here right now. That statement is very different. It's gonna get a different response from me because it's disrespectful, rude, and not to be tolerated. So they've gone past my limit, they've crossed my line. I didn't come to work today to be called a piece of shit. So I would say something like, ma'am, we are moving as fast as we can. We're not able to come in until we have all of this equipment on. This is for our safety as well as your own. We want to help your husband, but we cannot do that if you are going to speak to us like this. So if you continue in this way, we are not going inside. It's as simple as that. Usually, that's enough to tell them, like, you are not okay. We're not doing this. But you can say something like, if you're going to speak to us like this or make threatening statements, we're not going to be able to come inside your house. Generally, this works. It depends. We'll talk later, but if it continues to escalate, you just call the police, right? Give them that boundary that if this continues, you will be calling the police, and then call the police. And you know what the police are going to do? Why would you treat the paramedics like that? You called them here to help you. And we just stand there and go, yep. We spoke briefly about this violence against paramedics now, so there's reporting. There's been a lot of research on violence against paramedics. 98% of paramedics have had some form or all forms of violence against them at some point. I can tell you that that's very, very true. I think it's actually, there's no way that it's not 100. It's maybe the 2% are the people that have not worked longer than like 10 months who filled out the survey. I don't know. But it will happen. I think that it's remember that you're working. You're not just like Joe Public. You have to exercise an enormous amount of restraint when people are being rude to you like that. And you have to have a lot of discipline not to just snap at them and attack them verbally back, right? Anger almost always wants anger back. So if you don't give them anger back, generally they will calm down. Remember that inside thoughts stay inside. My partner and I on the weekend, literally, one of my partners this weekend, her and I got hired together, and her and I were laughing. We haven't seen each other in a few years, and she, at one point during the day, she was like, inside thoughts stay inside. And I laughed, I was like, I say that all the time. I thought the other day also about how this course has changed over the years. And I said to someone, I teach this course very differently than I was taught by the guy who taught this before me. And I thought about it, his personality versus my personality. It's not about that. It's about the fact that the culture has changed. Humans have changed. Society has changed. People are far more rude now. This course, when I took it, I mean, well over a decade ago, the vast majority of people that called 911 were very nice to paramedics. And so the way that he taught it was, we barely even understood what boundaries were. It was just, whatever they say is fine, just let them do it. And now we talk so much about setting these boundaries and calling the police, and now there's research on the violence against paramedics. And I realized that that's what the change is. Because you get far more disrespected now than we used to. But you see that in all, who here works in retail? Or like the food service industry. And I feel like those are the two, you're like maybe someone made the burger, like you're at the cash of a burger shop. You didn't even make this burger, right? You just passed it to them and they're like, what the fuck is this? No pickle? Who would not forget the pickle? You're like, okay, first of all, I didn't make this burger, right? Like, I'm sorry that you didn't have pickle. I'm not sure that's what we needed to do. Would you like the whole jar of pickles? Right, this is it. It's people think it's okay to treat other people that way now. I don't know why. So complaints that management has been getting since COVID started are things like they didn't care about my loved one or they took their sweet time getting to them. Thankfully, management in all of the services has taken a pretty strong line on this because you are required to put the PPE on before you go in. And so we don't even hear these complaints. Management deals with them before they even come to us. All they say is, nope, that's what they're supposed to do. Bye. So it's good for us that management is taking that stance. So what would likely you know what an angry person looks like. It's unlikely you've gotten to this point in your life without having seen an angry person. But and I always say retail or restaurant sector, but I suppose it's in any job that you may have had. I just find that the public service industry is where people get abused the most. So usually angry people are easy to recognize. They have got an angry voice tone, they have a facial expression, they'll use profanity usually. They'll often speak quickly, they rarely listen to you because they're just getting their own thoughts out. They'll use sudden aggressive movements like slamming a door, throwing down a helmet, clenching their fists, so on. Let's make sure our volume's working. We'll watch this little clip. First, we're going to get my computer sound on.
Great.
Yes, well, that's the photocopy. And remember, we spoke in week 1. That's displacement. Displaced his anger towards the printer onto a different object. So, his actions, oh my gosh, have not fixed that. I can't deal with it. I don't want to have to buy another one of these things.
Did you get the video where they punched through the monitor? That one's good.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking of this video and then I stopped because it's old but I like it. And then I realized like you could just go on Reddit and find a million of these videos in the like, I don't even know what the sorry?
The metaverse.
Yeah, no, there's like actually like there's a Reddit.
I think it's r/ragebait.
Rage bait?
I don't know.
Like I'm sure there's a bunch of that. Right? There's some subreddits all over the place where you find people getting angry for whatever.
It's funny.
Anyway, his actions are not congruent with what happened to him, right? Obviously, was it worth it to probably lose his job? But if you look at what happened to him, it is annoying. It would cause you to maybe get angry, but does it cause you to flip out and show all of that anger like that? No. So if your actions are not congruent with what happened to you, we have to think about, are there other stressors or frustrations in his life aside from the printer that maybe he was already having a really bad day that caused him to lose it? So I had an interaction with a coworker a couple years ago who exhibited all the signs of an angry person. He had an angry tone of voice, facial expression, he didn't want to listen to anything I had to say to him. He was swearing, throwing things around. What precipitated this happening was that I had moved some of his equipment. So just so you know, every day when you finish on the truck, you take your stuff off the truck. So he had a bad habit of leaving his stuff on the truck, which is fine, except that we don't have enough room for our stuff. So we take his stuff off and we put it next to the truck on top of one of those really, really big recycling bins. I'm not putting it in the recycling bin. I'm not putting it in the garbage. It's just sitting on top of a recycling bin. And I had been doing that and he hadn't said anything to me. So I figured he was fine with it. Remember, he's supposed to take his own stuff off the truck and put it where it belongs in his locker, but he doesn't. So I take his kit bag and I put it there. And so one day he relieved me. I was getting changed and he just came in flying off the wall, screaming at me about putting his stuff in the garbage, and I'm actively like being mean to him and all of this, whatever he had to say. So he didn't like where I put it, even though that was totally an acceptable place and it was his responsibility to take it anyway. But so we'll talk later about how to deal with conflict. But I wanted to highlight this circumstance because I had known this guy for years, and I knew that this wasn't his regular personality. Like if he had had an issue, he normally would have just come to me and been like, hey, can you stop putting my stuff on the recycling bin? I don't really like it. And I would have been like, yeah, actually, I mean, could you just take it off the truck? But if you do forget to take it off the truck, like if you don't like the recycling bin, I'll put it somewhere else. And that would be the end of the conversation, right? So instead, he flew off the wall, and yes, he did actually tell me to go fuck myself. So I will say, I did not put in a complaint to management because I knew this wasn't his regular, like, I'm just looking at him and I thought to myself, something is wrong. Something is not okay. And so you want to think, instead of egging on his anger or engaging with him in any way, I just told him, like, this is inappropriate. We can have a normal conversation about this. He didn't really like that answer either. Angry people generally don't like it when you don't engage with them. But I wondered to myself, what is going on in his personal life? He walked in this morning. Could maybe he be having some marital issues, or maybe he's just having a really bad day, maybe he dropped his coffee, like, I don't know. Maybe everything's just not going well for him today. And so I left it, and then his partner came in the room and he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, yeah, I think someone peed in his cornflakes this morning. He's like, he came in a really bad mood already, and I was like, I thought so, because, you know, I didn't really think that was okay. So anyway, I came in that night for my shift, and he apologized. So that was nice, because I'm not the person who's going to take it to management. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying if you can deal with interpersonal issues amongst yourselves without taking it to management, it's a much better thing for you socially anyway. What I wanted to highlight here was, sometimes you can tell when something else is going on. So, the first thing we don't want to do is take offense personally. We've talked about this before. So if it's someone who doesn't know you, they don't know you, don't lose sleep over it, right? I'm not saying it's okay that they did it. What I'm saying is, they don't know you, so they're just saying whatever is coming to their head, so just don't take it personally. The angry patient may actually be lonely, anxious, frightened, or insecure. That they may be lashing out with anger instead. So we actually want to give them reassurance and explore their needs. We really need to read between the lines, be a detective, piece together what's really happening to them. Accept people, let them talk, let them regain self-esteem. So they talk out their angry feelings. Usually people do well after they've vented. Again, not if they're calling you names or being inappropriate to you. Just if they're just angry. So they just often really feel the need to be heard. Remember often that on a scene, it isn't the patient that's angry, it's the family and friends that are angry. They're usually the ones spouting off. It's not usually the patient. And usually it's because they think something like you're not moving fast enough, they think you shouldn't be letting the patient walk, even though you feel that it's medically appropriate to let them walk, and the patient agreed to it. So in this case, you would need to explain to the family, and this happens quite frequently. Oftentimes we want the patient to walk, if they can, as a neurological assessment, and we'll explain it as, it's another little test of how your brain is doing. If you don't feel like you can do it, that's fine, we'll pick you up and carry you. And the patient will be like, okay. And the family's saying things like, they can't walk right now, what are you doing? That's awful. You're like, no, actually, the patient is okay, and if they can't, no problem, we will pick them up, but this is a neurological test that we're doing. And they're like, ah! I once had a family scream at me the entire way down the stairs. And the patient was like, but it's fine. And I said, and it was medically actually necessary to do this, because it was going to be less painful for them to walk down the stairs than for me to carry them. Like, given where their injury was, imagine you have a lower back injury that makes you not able to get into a seated position, so I can't use a stair chair. If I strap you to a board and carry you down the stairs on a board, I've now pushed your back in a position that it doesn't want to be in. If I fore and aft you, I've put you back into a seated position. So walking down the stairs was the most appropriate way to get down and the most comfortable. And paramedics are very, very good. You get a lot of those back injuries where they've like thrown their back out. The best way to get out of the house is for them to walk out of the house. And these calls will come in, the man will be like, I absolutely can't move, and they're laying on the ground. And you're like, yeah, I totally understand. We actually know exactly what ways to get your body to move to help you get up. And we will get them to roll over, we'll get them to get up in a very specific way and stand up, and they're like, wow! Yeah. I also have pain management, but like, generally, we actually have a very specific way of doing it. This is when family tends to yell a lot. Because the family heard them before we get there say like, I can't walk, I can't move, I can't do this. In my head I'm thinking, yeah, can't is a strong word. Yeah.
Yeah, we taught this in the lab.
Maybe not specifically. It's definitely something that you acquire on the road, especially how you explain it to them. Generally, as long as you're working with a senior medic, you will acquire this quite quickly. I can tell you right now that a lower back strain is not something you're likely to see much in the lab. You'll be dealing more with other things. And if it was like a traumatic back injury, that's a different story, right? Like we have to put them on a board and stuff like that. But these are the, and I generalize it to like the 40 or 50-year-old man just because that's generally who it is. It happens to women as well, but very, very frequently men. So generally, like family members are just worried about their loved ones. That's how you read between the lines. You read between the lines on what they're saying and what they're not saying, realize that they're worried about their loved ones, and address their concern for the loved one rather than engaging with the anger. They're really just frightened, anxious. De-escalation is an entire topic. We don't have time to do like an entire de-escalation. And at the same time, as paramedics, our job is not de-escalation. This is a police thing. We do a little bit in generalized concepts, but basically you're using a calm, reassuring voice. You're going to speak slower than normal, and you're just going to set your limits. I really want to help you, but I can't do that when you're making threatening statements to me. The reason why you have the reassuring, calm voice is because it will bring the energy level down. The reason you speak more slowly is because it also forces them to pay more attention to what you're saying, because when you speak slower, people have to pay more attention to you to understand the sentence. When you speak very quickly, people will often just skip words and not pay attention, and if the energy is very high already, then it's not gonna work. And setting your limits, which we've spoken about. Never engage anger with anger. It does not work well. It escalates the situation. And we want to be patient, don't rush. We have to listen carefully, observe their nonverbal communication. We're not going to defend or blame. If we argue with them, it will escalate the situation. So even if they're getting upset with you about something, you can explain why you're doing what you're doing, but don't get defensive. So the difference here is something like, if you are deciding to walk the patient, and they're coming at you with like, what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. You shouldn't be walking the patient. Do not respond with things like, I went to school for a very long time. I know what the fuck I'm doing, okay? Like, that's not going to get you anywhere. That's probably what you're thinking in your head. Like, oh, and who gave you a degree of whatever? You know, that's not what you need to be saying. So things that you would say are, I understand that you're concerned about them walking. What we are doing is actually a neurological test, or you say things like, this is actually the most comfortable way. Any other way is going to put pressure on the area that has trauma, or the area that is hurting. And you know, after having done this many times, I can assure you this is the most comfortable way. If they do want me to carry them, I have no problem doing that. It's just that it will be quite painful for them. And we've now seen how I've flipped it over to guilting them into, do you want your family member to be in pain? Do you? I don't say that, but that's the connotation that I've said, is you're asking me to make your family member painful. We have to have very careful, thorough documentation. You can only say facts, not your emotions. So in your documentation, you don't say the patient was acting like a jerk. You say the patient used profane language and was verbally abusive. That means the same thing, but those are facts as opposed to your feelings about it. A good thing to remember is that if the patient said something awful and you need to put it in your documentation for any reason, you just write patient stated, put quotations, and put exactly what they said. A lot of people think that you're not allowed to swear in your forms, and no, if they swore, that's it. As long as you have patient stated, quote, whatever they said, end quote, you can put whatever. Imagine the things I've put in my reports over the years. It's fantastic. You have to monitor yourself. So if you are noticing that you are also escalating inside and you're not sure you're going to be able to keep it together anymore, if you need to take a step back, if you need to take a look at your partner and your partner can then engage and you can take a step back for a moment, do that, but definitely monitor yourself. And then take some time after a stressful encounter with a patient or an angry person. When you're ready with your documentation and your partner's cleaning up the truck, just take a little time to decompress, and the two of you will likely talk with a call. If you need some extra time, you call your supervisor. You're probably calling your supervisor about this anyway, depending on how significant it was. And now that we have the EVAP forms, which are the violence against paramedic forms, you would be filling that out as well. And so, one of my old partners and I, we had a good cop, bad cop routine. And either one of us could be good cop, either one of us could be bad cop. But when we encountered patients like this, we would just give each other a look. It would literally be like, if I'm talking to you, I'd be like, and then my partner would just take over the call and I would walk out the door. You can't always do that, right? You can't leave your partner with a violent person. What I'm saying is, if they're just like, are you sure you're doing that right? Are you sure? Shouldn't you be doing this? Shouldn't you be doing that? And you've constantly just been explaining yourself and you're monitoring yourself and you're like, I'm gonna wanna punch someone out soon. Maybe you're having a bad day, right? Like I said, maybe you have stresses in your personal life and you feel it welling up inside of you. Give your partner that look. You may have, if it's someone you haven't worked with regularly, you may have to do more than a look. You might have to be like, I'm just gonna take the bag outside. And that's code for like, got you. Let me keep taking their vitals while you take a moment to yourself. I actually did that this weekend. I looked at one of my partners and I was like, I'm just gonna take the bag outside and set up the stretcher, I'll be right back. And she was like, yeah, no problem. And after the call she laughed and she was like, yeah, that family member was difficult, eh? And I said, yeah, just needed a break. She's like, oh yeah. She's like, and then I took a break, I drove the truck. No one wants to get a complaint afterwards, so your partners will generally be very, very happy to let you have a minute. Maybe don't take forever, don't give them the whole call, but let them just take a couple minutes.
With DeSoto taking on Port Charlotte, after a main free throw, DeSoto's Mason Holland engages in a brief shoving match with an opposing player. The ref quickly blows his whistle and assesses the technical foul to Holland, who responds by pushing the ref. Holland then runs after the referee and throws him to the floor before being restrained. The game ended in a forfeit by DeSoto, and since the incident, Holland has been removed from the team and may be facing expulsion as well as legal ramifications.
So, you hear there at the end, so he's been expulsed from the team, and he may have legal ramifications, right? So, I play that because it's another team. It's like being a paramedic, it's like being on a team, right? Where you're employed. So, if you go ahead and have some sort of hostile action, like that, chances are you will lose your job. As a unit steward, there's nothing I can do to help you. If it, I mean, it's recorded too, like, and be aware that a lot of people are recording you now, and not just in public. Like, if you're out on the street, 100% someone's recording you. But even if you're in someone's front entrance, all of their Ring doorbells are recording you. If you are inside someone's house, I guarantee you there's probably a camera somewhere. Even in long-term care homes, a lot of people have cameras watching their grandma to make sure staff are treating them appropriately. Sometimes you can clock them pretty quickly, but always assume every minute that you are working that you are being watched somehow. I hate it. They were talking about putting body cams on us, and I was like, and I'm out. Not because I'm doing things I shouldn't be doing, just because I don't like Big Brother and want to go live in the woods and hide on 100 acres. But like, then they were talking about putting cameras in the backs of the trucks for our safety. And we were like, okay, well, what about patient privacy? Because patients are naked in the back of the truck all the time. And they're like, oh, it won't be recording unless something bad happens. And I'm like, so it's always recording, and what you're telling us is it deletes itself unless something bad happens, and then you'll keep the recording. I'm like, so in my head though, a complaint comes in against me, you're still gonna have a report. Like, do you know what I mean? It's the same as who has dash cams? Not as many as I thought.
It's happened, so mine, just in the box.
I know that there's like a lot of argument on either side of it. I can tell you positively, I am on the side of that is going to get used against you before it ever gets used for you. So don't. But, you know, you do you. 100%. Just so you know, if the cops stop you for something, they can use that. They can actually use stuff that's on it from before. So if you get stopped for something at 11 o'clock in the morning, or let's say someone crashes into you at 11 o'clock in the morning and you're like, I have dash cam footage, great. We're also gonna look at the previous 12 hours of your driving. Oh look, you didn't stop at that stop sign long enough. Oh, that's 3 points. You're only allowed 6 with an F-class license. Did you do it twice? No, you have no F-class license. Just throwing that one out there. Not the best idea. But I am just really against Big Brother. So, aggressive people and patients. So, other examples that we've had aggressive people. They really go hand in hand, anger and aggression. And in that sense, if conflict goes beyond an angry state, people may become verbally abusive or aggressive, when there's some sort of underlying aggression that's only manifested when people lose control, that can happen. It's often the result of unresolved anger and a loss of self-esteem. So this is kind of how people may look. We go to a lot of these, especially on the Friday and Saturday nights. So inappropriate expressions of aggression. So these people will be suspicious over small matters. Often they'll joke at others' expense. They'll be very confronting after they've had a long analysis of others' behavior. They're generally hostile, antagonistic, resentful, begrudging, uncooperative, caustic, sarcastic, rude, critical of you. They may be very demanding, complaining, and or they threaten you. And they may threaten personal injury against you. So anger can easily move to aggression and verbal abuse. The definition of anger is an unresolved anger that can cause someone's aggression. Helping patients cope with anger or aggression is beneficial to them, as aggression is often turned inward to produce depression. The catch is that it's hard to think about another person's benefit when they're directing aggression towards you. It seems obvious when anger is not diminished and the conflict intensifies that aggression and verbal abuse follows. So what do we do for aggression? This is my cat. He likes to think he's a lion. He's actually yawning in this picture. But I thought that it looked really like he was pretending to be like a lion and roaring. So first we have to try to resolve the conflict. We may not be able to do that. We have to imagine ourselves in the other's situation. So how would you respond if you just found out that your dad is dead and the paramedics are telling you that they're not taking him to the hospital? So we see a lot of anger with that. We have to maintain a balance, understand their needs, protect ourselves. Again, it's not our job to take abuse. It's not appropriate to allow someone to abuse you. If it is a mental health patient or a drug user, they may lash out at you. This is a different situation because those patients, oftentimes you can't deal with them rationally, whereas someone who is non-mental health, not substance use, just pure anger or aggression, usually you can rationalize things with them. We set limits as required. It is a difficult task to carry out, especially if you're a conflict-averse person. If you don't like conflict, I don't think anyone likes it, but if you don't like dealing with conflict, some people can have a lot of difficulty setting boundaries. So you can say things like, you don't need to swear at me to explain your situation. I'm here to help you. Or I can't look after you if you're going to continue to make threatening gestures towards me. If you continue to make threats at me, I'm going to have to involve the police to deal with the situation. Most people will back down once you mention police. Certainly once the police arrive, almost always they're like, oh, no, it's okay, officer. The police will always have your back. As I found out, it was very true when, as soon as the paramedics, so the paramedics on this call that had fire assault them, they finished the call, took the patient to the hospital, and then at the hospital reported it to supervisor. Supervisor called the police. Police came to the hospital. They gave a statement, and the police were like, cool, we're gonna go arrest him. I was like, really? They're like, yep. By then, the shift had ended. He had gone home. They went to his house, knocked on the door. Great, you're under arrest. And he spent 2 days in lockup. So, the police definitely have our backs. We want to use assertive behavior and communication. This means that we're seeking to maintain respect for others as well as ourselves. So, we need to talk about assertiveness. So, passive behavior. This encompasses response that deny our own rights in an attempt to avoid conflict or discomfort. So, for example, you say nothing in response to an unfair insult from another person. Saying nothing in response to that makes, to someone's question, that you think might get you in trouble. You withhold a compliment for fear of awkwardness, things like that. Aggressive is responses that seek to dominate others. So it denies the right of others. So if you insult others so that no one says no to your demands, you use you statements like, you are the one that's always freaking out on people, you're the one that's not pulling your weight on this team, etc. And then assertive behavior is responses that stand up for the rights of others and yourself. So these are using I statements that take responsibility. I feel frustrated by those comments. I would appreciate it if you would help me understand how it is we can fix this situation. I feel uncomfortable with the way you spoke to that patient because I think we should have shown him a little more compassion, would be another appropriate statement. Remember that assertiveness also includes giving and receiving thanks. So if you deny that, it's technically passive or not beneficial. So how often do you leave some encouraging word unsaid because it's awkward? Try giving and receiving it when you have a chance. Okay, we're going to do this assertiveness assessment. So, you read the statement. If the answer is yes, you give yourself 2 points. Sometimes is 1 point, and no is no points. I'm going to give you a minute or two, and then I'll let you know what the scores are. At this point, I'm not sure if some people are looking down because they're still counting. Like, some of you look like you're counting, and some of you might just be chilling out. I don't know. So we're gonna just do it now. I'm surprised no one raised their hand to ask. Ever feel reluctant to run down a classmate who asked you to do what they should be doing? Every single year, someone asks me what that means. So running down someone would just mean appropriately telling them off. Like, find them and tell them, like, I'm not doing your job. That's what that one is. Nicely telling them, I'm not doing your job. So if your score is 10 or more, that indicates you are being more passive than assertive. So, this test is far from diagnostic. It's just a little quiz adapted from a nursing communication skills textbook. So take what you will from that. As a paramedic, you will need to learn how to be assertive. You are going to be the highest medical authority, you're going to be the leader. There are times when people are going to want to do things differently than what you want to do, and that's okay, but you need to be able to be assertive and advocate for the patient if you know that what you want to do is right, while also not offending people. Being assertive doesn't mean going in and being a dick. This entire course is learn how not to be a dick. So I'm not saying go in there and be like, we are going to do what I want to do. That's not what I'm saying to do. That's aggressive. That's what you're wanting, is to do what you want to do. But you can go in and talk to people in a different way than that. Let's talk about conflict when we come back from the break.
It's like A, B, C, D, or. Yeah. Yeah, like, oh, it's just.
songs?
You guys have good angry songs?
No, I don't. Just listening to capacity makes me angry.
Font it, you go to your door, dude.
Everything he does is angry.
Even his
What
sweater.
That's so cool. Ow. Okay,
So why did I did tell you what up first? And then after that, I just like look at these two. Look at these two.
Bro, take some good picture though. Like I said, are we playing for low key? If I think I'm good now. I won't need the last fight.
Is this just a mental thing? So, he's angry?
I'm not that.
You want a gambling website? You want a gambling website?
Oh yeah.
That was like an hour ago.
I think
How long are you guys staying in school for?
I'm saying about school.
I might
What do you guys do? Yeah. It's like 10.
10?
Yeah. You drive a Yeah, I'll sit back with you. I'm at like 5. And
No.
We'll study.
Almost on a game.
Yeah, just go to your gym.
He's gonna go somewhere to go to. He disappeared last
Yeah,
time.
exactly. Yeah, you go for the.
You just need the group.
It's like a picture, and then you see them like put down and it's like heavy metal. I'm like, wait, what?
I've been here before, Thomas.
Yeah. There's another one that's right beside here, but it's not as good.
Rexdale?
You don't like the one I'm in?
You guys went to lab after?
We have a test. So we can go all the way to Rexdale, which is apparently a lot better than the one right here.
No one invited you.
I like how we say half an hour drive. Like it's not like you go to Europe, half an hour drive is too far.
You're like in a different village. You're like in like four different villages.
You've already passed a few villages by now.
Yeah.
A 2 hour drive here is like, we're just going to cottage. And Europe is like, I've gone through 2 countries.
No, 2 hours. I'm still in Toronto.
How was that protein bar?
No, when does an airbag go off? At what speed?
No, it's like 30
Hopefully no one else.
No, what like triggers it to go off? At what speed does
Could be anything. 30 kilometers.
16, 24. 16, 24. And then it beats like 320.
Speaking of anger, hostility, and conflict, so my wife is in the ACP program right now, so she's in her clinicals. She's in the OR this week. And there's a bunch of different anesthetists, right? They don't just have one. There's 9 different ORs. So her job this week is to go into the OR, like go see the anesthetist before the surgery times are all listed, and talk to them, ask if she can do the tubes, like intubate, and like she gets a yes or a no, right? So she's been there for a couple days. The anesthetist assistants are the ones that usually monitor her and stuff, and they're like, yeah, she's really good, yeah. And today she said that there was 8 pediatrics coming through for surgeries, and she's really excited to intubate peds. Because the first time you intubate a ped, you don't want it to be an emergency situation on the road. You want it to be in an OR, which is like a sterile environment with a whole team there and an anesthesiologist next to you who's gonna fix your problem if you get one. And so she just texted me, the anesthetist that she thought was doing those surgeries got switched and now it's a different one. He's well known for denying any student, like, you are not going to touch the peds. And she's very frustrated right now. There's a lot of anger because she really wanted to, she was told yesterday she was going to, she really wants to do them. And I laughed, because yesterday I told her, when I spent my week in the OR, I knew it was a different doctor, and he said no to me too. So an entire day of peds didn't get done because I was like, no, it's just an anesthetist who refuses to let people do his tubes. And she just sent me the name, and I was like, oh yes, that's him, yeah. So now the conflict she has is for the rest of the week, she's going to be angry that he didn't let her do those. He will let you do those. And so the rest of the week she's gonna see him for adults. So I told her she can do some conflict resolution and be really nice to him. It is very frustrating though, because that was the only day for me that peds were in the OR, which meant I did not do a ped in my clinical practice. So it's also one of those things where like you're a student, but you're not really a student. Like you've already been a paramedic for years. So usually when you're talking to patients about whether like convincing them to let you do things on them, instead of saying like, oh yeah, I'm a paramedic student, the staff will be like, this is Amy, she's a paramedic. She's been a paramedic for 10 years, and she's just upgrading some skills right now. Because the last thing people like hearing is this is a paramedic student. When you go to your clinicals though, you are paramedic students, and so you have to say that. And you'll see. Some people say yes, some people say no. It's really about how well you can convince them. When you go to do your labor and delivery rotation, you will find, sorry for those males in the room, but it is harder for you to get into those rooms because for whatever reason, pregnant ladies just tend to be better if it's a female paramedic student than a male. I disagree with this because it doesn't matter. It literally, like, you're all gonna deliver babies. So, and I hope for you that you have nurses in L&D that week that are really good at, again, explaining why you're there, right? You're not there to just like ogle them. Well, no one's ogling anyone when they're delivering a baby. You're there to actually like deliver the baby. So anyway, I hope for you that you get a good experience it'll be next fall when you do your hospital stuff. So what is conflict? It is tension arising from incompatible needs. Actions of one frustrate ability of the other to achieve goal. This is regularly encountered. Patients, bystanders, dispatchers, supervisors, other paramedics, fire department, police, nurses, physicians, literally and everyone you come in contact with. Usually there's a threat to sense of control or self-esteem. Despite the fact that most people find this uncomfortable or difficult, the main goal is to make resolution. There are 4 styles of conflict management. Some work better than others. The first is avoidance. So you're just avoiding an uncomfortable situation or that person at all costs. So it can cause stress because the conflict just gets postponed. But at the same time, this can be an appropriate method to use if the cost of addressing it is better than the cost of, the cost of addressing it is greater than the potential benefit. So, in better terms, pick your battles. Is it worth doing further conflict resolution, right? There's some sort of conflict, it doesn't really matter, at the end of the day, you're gonna drop the patient off and then they're gonna be gone. Was it worth it to pick that battle? Is it a hill you wanna die on today? And then there's accommodation. You just oblige other people, peace is maintained, but the real issue ends up going unresolved. And it is likely to resurface again in the future. This really is just a desire to smooth over the conflict. You're being cooperative and compromising. It is non-assertive. Then we have competition. It's about aggression with a lack of compromise. Authority is often used as the hammer here. So this method is usually only successful in a quick decision situation. So one party exercises power to achieve a personal goal regardless of the other's needs. This is used, again, there are times when each of these are appropriate to use. This is used frequently in the sense of on a call, a quick decision needs to get made, there's a conflict, someone wants to do something, someone else wants to do something else. The ACP is in charge of the call, and they will just make the decision. And because they're the higher medical authority, whether you agree with it or not, you can advocate for the patient, but they're going to say like, yeah, but we're not doing that. And you just have to go with it because they've used their authority, they've pulled rank on you. So I find that this does happen when you're on calls, and maybe it is also like you pull rank on fire, right? On a fire scene, they're in charge. On a medical call, you're in charge. So that can happen. It doesn't mean that's what was best for the patient, it just means that that's what happened. So you can choose to try conflict resolution in another manner after the call, so you can ask for clarification on why the patient was managed that way versus what you thought was best. And then it's just a discussion. And that's totally appropriate. And as an ACP, I will have medics on scene ask why we're not, like, shouldn't we be doing this other thing? And I'll be like, oh yeah, no, we're actually not gonna do that today, we're gonna do this. In a high acuity call, I don't have time to explain. After the call, when we're kind of debriefing, I'll sit down and be like, yeah, thanks so much for mentioning that. It is something I thought about, but we're not doing it because of these reasons, and explain the reasons. But I am also an ACP on every call that at some point tends to say, is there anything, can anyone think of anything we may be forgetting? Which offers an opportunity for people to suggest things that gives them a sense of control over the situation as well, but secondarily, it might be 3 AM and I may have forgotten something easy and they may not feel comfortable enough to bring it forward. So collaboration. Both parties commit to finding a mutually satisfying solution, which involves directly confronting the issue, acknowledging feelings, and using an integrated method to solve the problem. This is your solution-oriented response. It is cooperative, which is why it's called collaboration. Here with collaboration, we have to identify the concerns of each party. We have to clarify any assumptions that have been made, identify the actual issue. There's oftentimes where the conflict has come from may not be what the actual issue is, and work collaboratively to find a solution that works for both parties. So we have these steps of assertive conflict resolution. Oops. So a lot of books and courses on conflict management will endorse the use of I statements. For example, I feel like I'm taking the lion's share of work here, or it's just, I feel insert emotion when insert undesired behavior because insert offensive behavior. Does anyone want to come up with an example? About anything. I'm waiting for someone to be like, I feel bored when you talk, Amy, because this is boring. So, it could literally be anything. I feel frustrated when you tap your pencil at breakfast because I'm trying to eat my breakfast and it bothers me. Right? Like anything. It's just an I feel blank when blank because blank. So, something that relates more to a call could be, I feel anxious when you don't check a dizzy patient's blood pressure before moving them because I'm worried they may be hypotensive. So, standard practice is always to check a blood pressure before you move a patient, like if they've had a fall or something. And some medics won't, they'll just, we'll get it later. And if it's your permanent partner and they're doing it often and it's frustrating you, think about the different types of conflict resolution. If we just avoid it and never talk about it, you're gonna just keep getting frustrated until one day it becomes aggression, and you like rip the blood pressure cuff out of their hand. You're like, ah! We don't want to do that. If you're accommodating it, maybe you mentioned like, shouldn't we check blood pressure? And they're like, ah, and then you're just compromised by being like, oh, okay. Competition would be, you know, should we check a blood pressure? No, I'm the ACP. It's not, that's not when you should be using competition. Some medics may, but collaboration would be trying to say, I feel anxious when you don't check a dizzy patient's blood pressure before moving them because I'm worried they might be hypotensive. So hopefully your partner would come back and be like, oh, I didn't realize it bothered you. It's just that they seem fine, so I thought we would just check it later. And you would say, yeah, it's just, it really bothers me. Is there a way that we could maybe just do the blood pressure? And they would probably say, yeah, go ahead and do one. As long as you're doing it. And so we're describing what it is, we're disclosing, which is the I feel statements, identifying the effects that are, what is it doing to you, wait for the response, and then paraphrase using reflective listening skills to finish. So the I statements work well because, so something like, I feel uncomfortable when we talk about personal issues in lab because I feel like everyone can overhear us. Compared to, you always talk too much in lab about personal issues. So when you use the you statements, people tend to get very defensive. Right? So if you said to someone like, you talk way too much about your personal issues in lab, they're gonna get defensive about it, or it's gonna make them feel bad about themselves. So you change that to, I feel uncomfortable when we talk about personal issues in lab because I feel like everyone can overhear us. They're like, oh, I hadn't thought about it like that. And then it's just you're more likely to get a better response from them. So we are going to watch a video. The videos that I have for you are older videos. I have searched and searched to find more high quality videos. There are not. I've searched for someone who's like re-rendered them into a higher quality. There are not. So, and especially this next one, the sound quality is difficult to understand because a lot of it's coming through radios. So, it's a body cam. So bear with me. But we're gonna watch the video, and so you're gonna look at what the source of the conflict was. Write down some key moments, because it's a long video, where things escalated the conflict, how it got resolved, what the effects were, what could have been done differently, and what were the correct assertive behaviors made, and what ones could have been utilized more. And we're gonna hope my computer doesn't do that too much. We'll watch the video.
back in that ambulance, I'm talking to the driver.
I'm in charge of this unit, sir.
Okay.
My name is Maurice White. I'm a critical care paramedic.
I'm gonna give you a ticket for failure to yield. And when I go by you saying what's going on, you don't need to give me no hand gestures now. I ain't gonna put up with that shit. You understand me?
And I won't put up with you talking to my driver like that.
I ain't listening to you, buddy. You get your ass back in that ambulance, or I'll take you in. I'm talking to the driver.
And if you would.
Come over here.
No, we got a patient in this unit.
Okay, you wanna go ahead and pull over the side of the road when there's an emergency vehicle behind you?
No, I wasn't. You ran up on us quickly.
I did not run up on you quickly, buddy.
Yes, you did.
You better get back in that ambulance before you get your butt to jail now. You understand me?
We're gonna get my patient to the hospital. You can take me to jail. We'll discuss this, okay?
Come here, boy.
No. I got a patient in this unit.
Hey, what's going on now?
And you are talking to me. I'm not talking to you. You are. You don't obstructing my patient. You turn around now. Calm down. Your wife is in this car. You better back up. Your wife is in this car. Back up. Nobody's gonna go there. You're gonna arrest me. Follow me to the crack. I'm gonna go to the hospital, man. That's all we have. You're going to the hospital. You can. You get on. Get on. Come on, just go straight. Right, go ahead. Let's take my wife to the hospital. Let's take my wife to the hospital.
No, you can't go right now. You're not taking anything. You're not running through. Here, Paul. Sir, I'm gonna ask you to step back, okay?
Hey,
Thank you.
my wife. She needs to be in the
I
hospital.
understand that. If you wouldn't have come out here sooner, we could have been on the road about 5 minutes ago, Carter, and I've stepped back.
I'm sorry to keep going to the people.
Listen, all I'm trying to do is over here to talk to you about it. All right? I didn't need your manager or whoever it is in the back, the paramedics, whoever happens to be in charge to get out of the trucking, okay? You understand? You're going to jail. Yeah. You don't jump down and talk to a state trooper like that. You understand me? I don't care who you are. You're not running codes. You're not running emergency, okay? All right? I didn't just get up behind you and tailgate you and turn on my red lights and siren. I'm going to go hot over here to help the county out. You understand? Man, we're going to get you on the hospital there just quickly, okay? Hey, you're going to jail, you understand me? You are under arrest. Okay, you are under arrest. I'll get there. That charges on this for assault. Yeah, man. I didn't say that. I heard you tell him.
So what do you guys think about that?
You know what happened? More people just got mad.
Yeah, so let me explain a bit, before we talk a lot. So in the States, there's often a different model. So the person in the front is a driver. That's all they can do is drive. They've got like a first aid certificate so they can help with basic stuff, like maybe an EMR or something. But other than that, they're not doing anything. The person in the back is a paramedic, and in the States they often have like, they've got a driver, EMT, paramedic level. Paramedic is the equivalent of an ACB, and so sometimes they have like an EMT and a paramedic, or they might have a driver and an EMT, but generally there's always a driver. Because why pay someone to do something? Like, our model of having two paramedics is actually somewhat unique in the sense that reasonably it would be cheaper for them to pay $16 an hour to have someone just drive, right? And then pay an ACP to sit in the back and do that. But it would also mean that they have to do every single call, which would mean I would be finishing my paperwork before I get another call. But remember that in the States, it's you're paying for the service. So the reason he got out of the back was because he was saying, I'm the paramedic, I'm in charge. So he felt that it was his responsibility to get out and talk, because the driver is just a driver. What did we think? Whose issue? So if you didn't understand what he was saying at the beginning, he was mad at them because at the very beginning, you saw him he passed them, so they're not driving lights and sirens, and they didn't pull over. So they were just like continuing to drive. So even if you're an emergency vehicle, you still have to pull over for other emergency vehicles when they have their lights on. So he was trying to rush to that call. He had his lights on, they didn't have their lights on, and what he said is that they didn't slow down or pull over, and as he passed them, he said that the driver gave him a gesture, which I'm guessing was a finger. I don't know that the driver actually did that or not. Maybe the driver was like, raised his hand or like sorry or something, I don't know. The driver doesn't really get a chance to actually explain himself at any point, because there's a lot of screaming. So the source of conflict was that the state trooper felt they weren't doing, the driver of the vehicle, the ambulance, had done something inappropriate, which like you can get a ticket for not doing that, right? What escalated the conflict? I mean, the paramedic getting out of the back did escalate the conflict. Like, did he have to get out of the back? No, like, he felt like he should, yeah.
Even like the family members, like a lot was going on and no one knew what was happening. And then the family members like were approaching like the property, like, like saying everything, and everybody was like screaming at the same time. And right. Just like arrest the person.
Yeah, so there was a lot of, the family member, I'm just gonna call him the mob. The mob doesn't help. Anything else? Yeah.
There was a lot of like, you did this. It was not.
Right. Yeah.
The trooper, he just started from like completely wrong level.
Right, well, yeah, so the state trooper was being a state trooper.
Even if he was, even if he did like the gesture or whatever, he started holding it on like 200.
Yes, so earlier in this class, I said that de-escalation techniques were the police's job. But we do have to recognize that in the states, especially the southern states, which this is, the police officers there do not have a lot of de-escalation techniques. They're in fact taught escalation techniques. He did use them, yes. Had he used de-escalation techniques, do we think maybe things would have gone differently? Had he used some conflict resolution instead of, so his idea of conflict resolution was,
I'm gonna arrest you.
Everybody going to jail.
the competition method, yeah, right, competition method. This is my, like the authority, literally.
Respect my authority.
Yeah, exactly. That was literally that's all he's doing. Those are his vibes. So The paramedic though didn't have to get out, but when he did he do anything, like, everything he was saying was in a calm, reassuring tone. He identified who he was, why he was out there, and what he got back was angry cop. Yeah.
I like how, like, the constant, like, back and forth between the paramedic and the trooper were like, the paramedic was like, we need to go to the hospital. We're just going to the hospital. And the trooper's like, no, you're a jerk, blah, blah, blah. But then he proceeds to open the back of the ambulance and be like, all right, then we're gonna get you to the hospital.
Yeah. Like, he has a really big ego, and you can tell. Like, he thinks he's the be-all and end-all.
I feel like his big ego got crushed when he was kind of useless at that first call, so he kind of displaces his anger and then goes the second time that like catching up, and then nothing happens because he's just yelling and can't communicate.
That's really good.
Yes.
The paramedic was also competitive. He came out to identify himself before he to this call, and then when the police officer was very aggressive back him, he didn't try to de-escalate as much, where the driver was actually, in my opinion, was white. He's like, I'm sorry, later on, here he's like talking, he's like, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And then if the paramedic were also that way, I feel like maybe this wouldn't have escalated that far. Because he initially wasn't going to physically approach the guy to arrest him, but later on, as they were arguing back and forth so much, he started putting his hands on the paramedic and started arresting him.
Yeah, so I agree with you. At the same, I don't want to say it was avoidance as much as it was appropriate. I have been pulled over by a police officer. So we talked about when do you have authority and when do you not have authority, right? So if this is a medical call, then we are above the police, but this isn't. This is the driver got pulled over for doing something he wasn't supposed to do. So reasonably, the paramedic, after he identified himself and the cops told him just get in the back of the truck a bunch, he's trying to advocate for his driver, saying like, it's not, I'm in charge, you should talk to me. But at the end of the day, he pulled the driver over. This is a simple, a police officer pulled you over. So if he had just gotten in the back of the truck again and waited to see what the cop was gonna say, the driver was being, yes, sir, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't give you a sign, oh, I'm sorry that you think I did, I didn't, you know, then there might not have been like, you're going to jail! So much jail, yes.
I think paramedic was doing kind of the right thing, but also not the right thing. Because in general, when you are, let's say, a leader of a team or something, you take responsibility for your, like, for your
100%.
Underlings, misdeeds.
Yeah.
But like he was a little too pushy in it.
Yes, so there was, for lack of a better term, so I think he got out, he identified himself well, things like that, but then there just became a pissing match between the cop and the paramedic. And I said, when you get anger with anger, it does not end well, and it didn't. Now, we could talk at great length about the possibility and, let's be honest, probability that the reason why he treated the paramedic the way he was because of the color of his skin. I would 100%, at one point he called him boy.
He did.
Oh, it does. At one point he called him boy, and I was like,
Oh shit.
I think there's more going on here. Like, I think if it was a different crew, there may have been a different response, but that is just a commentary on our entire society, especially in the South. Quite a few videos today are from the South, so we'll talk about that.
Do we know if the patient was okay afterwards?
So the patient, they weren't going lights or sirens,
Okay.
which means the patient was a low acuity call in the first place. Yeah. Okay. So now I do have a newer one for you. This is a violent bystander. It's from the show Night Watch. I don't know if any of you have seen it. So although they're in the States, the truck setup is similar to Ontario. This is a fairly accurate portrayal of something that might happen to you with American twist. It's always America. Oh, I turned the volume off again.
When we started outpatient care, when all of a sudden a male stepped in the side door of the ambulance and identified himself as her son. Yeah. You ain't supposed to be going nowhere. You ain't supposed to be going nowhere. It's okay. It's all right. But you weren't supposed to be. All right, hey, look, try not to get our blood pressure up, okay? You don't tell me that about my blood pressure. Get out there. Man, I don't have to go nowhere. Get up. I don't have to go nowhere. VPD.
All of a sudden, this guy, the patient's son, just lost it.
Fire need your help. Get out the truck. Get out, puppy.
Someone hit their emergency button. Immediate response is immediate. Are my coworkers okay? Is my family okay? Because if somebody hits that button, all hell is breaking loose.
All right, PD's here.
All right, just go for it.
Officer, I'm the deputy chief of EMS, and I want that man booked for assault on the EMT. Man, he put his hand on me first. My mom and everybody. I asked you to step out of the unit. You failed to do so. Man, put me in.
Once the gentleman had been escorted from the scene, we saw the patients we had to go take care of. We get back in the truck, and I was feeling a lot of pain in my shoulder, and my left hand was numb at the time.
Great. 6240, I got an injured employee. I need another truck out here.
We pull up on scene, half the police are there, half the fire. Where's the crew?
Right
What's
here.
going on?
The guy grabbed him and bounced him up against the car right here.
Yeah,
He's
right?
complaining all his shoulder and all right here. I'm just gonna put this as a precaution.
Immediately, I don't even care about the details of what happened. We need to make sure that our family member is okay. All right, Ted. Don't punch me.
What the fuck?
What's up, man? You got a little nervous shit going on. You got the tape in your hand? A little bit. Okay.
For him, it's gonna be all about x-rays. You ready?
Sure.
Too late?
Yep.
All right, let's go. I mean, we're the good guys. We're the guys that are supposed to be around to help everyone else, you know? So when we're taken out of the picture, that's a problem.
Breaking through every window the guy's house. This is the room. They start like breaking all the windows. Yeah. I can't find it.
So I did say it was gonna have a America twist. The first notice of it is they flip to the other crew and he's got a cigarette hanging out his mouth. Don't do that.
Oh, you can't smoke in the truck?
Yeah, don't smoke in the trucks. So I will, so there's some good points in this video and then there's some other ones. Let's just quickly point out the negative ones. Ted does not need a collar, as evidenced by the fact that they ripped it off 2 seconds later.
But I know it was the deputy of the paramedic service that put the collar on, and then the EMTs were like, nah, and just like took it off.
Also
Yeah.
put over the radio and everything was like.
Oh. Well, and also, like, is there any chance, like, think of your C-spine, like your SMR, like, did anything happen to him that indicated collar? No. So no. I don't know, like, if you are injured where you need another unit, then they will bring another unit. It's like she said, if one of our families injured, then we're gonna deal with it. But personally, probably would have just sat in the truck and then gotten seen by a doctor at the hospital. You know, I'm not gonna be like, yes, I need a whole ambulance crew for this right now. Let me get on the stretcher. So it is a little bit different because it's America, but and also some of the yelling that happens is like when he said like the deputy said, you failed to do so. Like again, we're probably not going to talk to them that way unless they've done something like really like what this guy got versus what he did was a little incongruent. But let's talk about the actual escalation of what happened. So the man gets in the truck, his mother is the patient, and he and the mother start arguing. He's saying, you weren't even supposed to be out, why were you out? So he's what we call a bad bystander. He is causing issues on your scene. So they did do what I would have done, which is remove him, but it's how they talked to him and how they removed him that escalated this situation. So, who wants to comment on how this went down? Yeah.
They were like, stop, you're gonna raise her blood pressure. Like, you're doing that.
Right. Yeah, so something better would have been something like, now is not the time, thankfully she's safe. We wanna make sure she's okay, can we just wait for that conversation till later? And he'd be like, wow, no, I know you're worried about her and I know she wasn't supposed to be out, but right now is not the time to talk about that. Do you see how that may have done better than like just yelling? I feel like my opinion on American now is just like they just all yell all the time. She's so angry. And then what? So then he's in the little doorway on the side of the ambulance. So he's kind of there. So they tell him to get out. And as the deputy says, he fails to do so. Right? He's like, I'm allowed to be here. So then what does Ted do?
Confronts him.
Yep. And so he's way too close. But he's trying to get him out. Think about so if you're not quite sure exactly how the back of the ambulance looks, it's like a box. Here's the back door. Here's the stretcher. This is a jump seat. There's like a flip down seat here. There's stairs here. The nurse catcher, and then we'll say it's a bench. It's literally called a nurse catcher. It catches you when you go flying and it stops your brain from getting smacked. So, our patient is here. Or sorry, the bad bystander is here. Ted goes here to push him out a door that is not open right now.
Push him down the stairs too.
Well, he's probably in the stairs.
Okay.
But let's think about this. Have you ever seen what an animal looks like when you corner them? You don't corner animals, you don't corner people. People are animals. So he's angry, and Ted is trying to, like, really just gets right up on him. He has nowhere to go. Why do you think he pushes him away?
Space.
Yeah, well, that now is aggressive. So if the door was open, I can somewhat understand this better, but the door wasn't open. That is 100% not how you should maneuver yourself if you don't want to get hit. Because if you back someone into a corner, they're probably going to hit you or push you out of the way or whatever. So Ted gets hit because he does something he shouldn't do. Then everyone piles out of here, comes around, pulls open the door and pulls him out. And now everyone's up in arms because he pushed Ted. Anything else you guys want to comment about this?
Captain also, what he's doing with an de-escalation, he's supposed to be like the most experienced, the most in control of the situation. But yeah, he did call an escalation.
He did escalate.
Like lots of emotions from him.
Yeah.
Would you have pressed charges?
Oh, so it's interesting because in Canada, we don't choose to press charges. The police choose whether or not charges will be pressed. So it's not really up to you. I'm not really sure in this exact situation because honestly, I think Ted got what he deserved here. He kind of did it to himself, really. I wouldn't have needed to press charges because they wouldn't have pushed me. Yes. Anything else?
I just wanted to remember, how did he get into the ambulance? Or did they let him?
No, he opened the side door and walked in.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could Ted have said like, hey, let's talk outside? Because the dude was clearly angry at his mom, and he just displays his anger towards Ted.
That's
Kind of
a
talk it out.
fantastic idea. Yeah. Like, hey, we're just trying to help your mom out right now. Can we just go outside and have a chat so that they can keep taking care of your mom?
That way you just like leave them outside. It's like you still like.
100%. If he gets in, let's just say he jumps in and he's not allowed to be in there at the time, right? We have to do some assessments on your mom. To do that, we have to expose her. So if you can just take a step outside for a couple minutes, we'll talk to you and we'll let you know later. We're going to expose this person, and you should people are always like, oh, they don't want to see naked mom. So there are many, many ways that you can get people removed from the situation. But whenever we have a bad bystander, the best thing to do is to separate them. Separate them, de-escalate, deal with the patient, and then everyone stays far more calm that way. Here we have another one. And I turn the same way.
Who did it? Sky 5 was over the scene. Richard Hawkins got mad because Britain Road was closed because of a car crash. Got out of his truck, started screaming, then started swinging. New tonight, Eyewitness News 5's Jordan Williams saw the whole thing. Jordan, you're one of the police department's witnesses.
Yeah, it was wild to watch, Paul. Police had me give them a play-by-play account of that street fight. And the police officers also want to see this amazing video. This guy just walked up.
He started yelling and cursing and threw his watch off, threw his shirt off, and took his undershirt off. It was kind of a strange deal. We tried to talk to him, find out what was going on, and tried to calm him down.
But that definitely didn't work.
And as soon as we kind of started stepping towards the side of the road, he took a swing and hit me.
IMSA supervisor Jason Duncan took a direct hit.
I can definitely feel it.
What are you guys taught to do when someone starts coming at you?
Defend yourself. Once you're being attacked, you're taught to defend yourself, keep yourself safe.
Jason, I'm great.
Even when paramedics and police got the guy on the ground, he wouldn't give up.
He was still yelling that we're killing him.
You're gonna kill me. You're gonna kill me.
Eventually, they calmed him down enough to get in a patrol car.
He's going to jail.
Photojournalist Rob Hedrick and I both had to tell police exactly what we saw.
Saw a guy come up here, he took his shirt off.
We are the eyewitnesses to this strange street fight.
I've had my fair share of people try to attack me. This is a first for a random third person to come up. I did the best I could.
And police say the suspect is a guy named Richard Hawkins. He's locked up tonight at the county jail. We know officers arrested him for possession of PCP, assault and battery on a police officer, and assault and battery on a city official. Jordan Williams, Eyewitness News 5.
Well, Hawkins had a child with him in his truck. Police plan to return that boy to relatives.
So, there are so many things to talk about in this video. So many. Let's start with, how do you feel about it?
Everybody dumb.
Everybody dumb. I mean, yes, literally everything is wrong. Anything else?
Took like a champ though.
Yes, I don't think the supervisor takes him at the time to do like you sat and wait for him. He was very angry about it. He was like, "Hey, listen, let's talk." And someone like that, you don't want to be up like that close to them. You want to like leave a little like space.
Yeah, 100%. The very first problem is that he's too close. He could never have hit him or gotten close to hitting him if he was doing the thing we say. Every time I show you a slide that says therapeutic response to the blank patient, the first thing is safety, position. Yeah.
To reiterate on that, I remember that like first weeks we did a scenario where it's like someone was like drawing boards was in the episode.
Yeah.
I got too close. It reminds me of that essentially.
Yeah.
But then in real life.
Yeah. So this call is on a roadway. how close do we have to be to this person? Right? Not. There's a whole road. So do not get too close, yeah.
Also, how come the paramedic had to talk to the, because it was just a random driver that just pulled up, how come the police couldn't handle that?
Yeah. Why is the paramedic supervisor doing the police job? Because the job of the police on the scene is to manage the scene. The job of the paramedics is to manage whatever the NBC patients were. Yeah.
Also, why did he even go to do it? Okay, just let him run out of the scene. Just why do you have to right now go in his face and like
Yes.
calm him down?
So I think the reason why the paramedic supervisor was talking to him was because they said that he got out of his car and he took his shirt off and his watch off and he was acting erratically. Is I think why the paramedic was probably over there talking to him, because the police were probably like, this is weird. But the police should have also been there. And you're right, as long as he's not gonna go into traffic that's moving, yeah.
Who's filming the fight?
The cameraman, the guy who was giving so the news were already on scene for the NBC. So they were already there. That's why he was a witness to this happening. I don't think it was statement, play by play. Yes.
So, the paramedic says that as soon as he's like, he claims self-defense and he just like, do whatever he needs to. Is that what it is?
So I'm gonna answer yes and no. Which brings us to the self-defense argument. So in this case, the guy goes to punch him, and you saw he went like right back. He's gonna punch him, right? Did he need to?
No.
Could he have just taken 3 more steps further back?
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So if he had punched him, technically that's not self-defense, because you could have gotten away. You are allowed to do self-defense though, along the same lines as any Canadian law about self-defense. So you're only allowed to use as much force as was used upon you, meaning you can't bring a gun to a knife fight. But, believe me, one of your protocols is to remove taser probes, and I'm like, but can we just get tasers? Like, the police have tasers and they're not allowed to remove the probes, and we are allowed to remove the probes but not tase people. I'm like, anyway, self-defense. So, you will, some services, Halton is one of them, teaches you self-defense. So it's literally the like,
Muay Thai.
Yeah. So the first thing is you can never use a closed fist. You can only use the palm of your hand. So you're like up their nose, smash their nose. They teach you pressure points so that you can disable people. It's quite fun, and then you get to like beat on each other for a whole day. So there is self-defense. The biggest thing they tell you on the self-defense is this is only to be used when you are in a life-threatening situation and you cannot remove yourself from it. So they're on a roadway. Just fucking walk away. Why are you being like this, right? There's no reason he couldn't have just walked away from that guy. But if you enter into a room and the only door is here, and your patient is here, you're obviously going to stand near the door, right? You're going to have an exit. You're always cognizant of where your egress is. If you somehow manage to come over here, and the patient is now standing here, you've now blocked your way to your exit. If the patient starts going at you now, you can have self-defense because you were not able to get out of the room. So, it's a life or limb situation. You are allowed to retaliate with, again, only as much effort as they are giving to you. And hopefully someone will help out, but yes, you can have self-defense. In this case, absolutely not. There's no way that in Canada would fly. And it would be on the news, and then you'd probably get in trouble for having transportation.
What about like how they restrain?
Right. So I think there was police there too. I think they're the ones that were tackling him to the ground. Was there a reason to tackle him to the ground? I'm going to tell you that in Canada, they probably wouldn't have tackled him right away. They probably would have tried talking to him, and then if that didn't work and the police were going to have to arrest him, they would have yeah, they would have taken down similar stuff. Now, let's flip a little bit of a switch on this. At the end, they say that he was arrested for possession of PCP. He's exhibiting a lot of the signs we talked about with someone who is on PCP. So he took off his clothes, he's acting erratically, like it's an NBC and he's just stuck in traffic, but he decided to get out of his car and be like, yeah, with no clothes on. So, okay, that seems a bit weird. It's like not your usual Monday. So, I did say patients that are on PCP are very erratic. You have to be very cautious with them. And so, from that, then those are the patients that are likely to have excited delirium. So, I have been on the QEW, because there was a man wandering around the QEW, acting erratic, he was on PCP, and it took literally 6 police officers, 2 paramedics, to hold him down so that he didn't run out in front of a car. Like, they're just like scrambling through the lanes, which thankfully on that side had now been closed. They all had to hold him down. That's how much strength people that have excited delirium have, until someone chemically sedated him. So, in this case though, I think in Canada we would have had things go a bit longer before this kind of thing happened. Do you have any other questions or comments about this one? Okay, we're gonna take a break, and when we come back from the break, we're gonna watch more videos.
Where's your N95, Jess? Where's your N95? You can turn it off forever. I never want to hear it.
Start.
Good.
I'm pretty.
And it should be okay for now.
Okay.
You know why we're using the last test, or whatever it says, it's not last one.
I heard it's myself.
What?
I heard it's
myself.
Awesome. I studied what I need to study. I read the BLS.
This is how my life goes. I don't understand computers.
No, but that's
I read the BLS, I looked over the
like, we need like the thumbnail.
What about the SQL? What if he's like, according to SQL, page 257.
All the questions be like, specific, like based off the readings, what do you think? No, like how it's like, oh, based from your readings, like, they start off with questions like from the readings.
You know what? I can imagine that. That's why I'm extra reading SQL. What are you worried about?
What am I worried about? My history. I got work I'm not sure if I should be like doing some kind of like doing something and then asking for history and then
Man, get the fuck off your phone. What is wrong with you? Hey, bro. No profanity. I want to get more.
Oh yeah, that's questions I relate to. Yeah, like we see the blood pressure. Is this normal blood pressure?
Yeah, maybe that's is relevant, but I don't think that's as relevant as like they're taking medication. They have those are questions related to
You hear my backside? Game the phone.
Thanks.
No.
Different ways of there's like 4 ways of frontal, rear-ended, it's like all this shit.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Samir. Yeah.
You better pass towards the.
Yeah, let's go. Who are you doing?
Who are you doing?
You think Ken? Oh yeah.
It's a height, it's a good height, it's a good height.
Alright, you better.
You don't think I'll pass?
Oh,
I know I'll pass.
No. I said you
Jack,
better.
such a
Terrible mentor. You do better. Bro, you think you will pass. There we go.
it's not even like a worry. Like,
I already did get you though. Yeah. I already did get you a 10. I'm fine.
Sorry?
I already did get you a 10 twice. Like, we did it like 2 times in a row.
Okay, we'll start again. Angry people. So we have a couple slides, a couple more things to cover, and then videos that are different than the other ones we just watched, but also violent patients. So imminent signs of potential violence. I feel like these are pretty self-explanatory, you've probably all seen it, but if they're spitting when they're yelling or speaking, cheeks are puffed out, bulging neck veins, reddened face, gritting their teeth, muscle tension in the jaw, threatening gestures, having a threatening posture, displaying a weapon, clenched fists, and wild or staring eyes. I don't think I've ever seen like a clip art look more like actually depict all of the things more than this one. So again, we don't have to have all of these, but if the angry person is is starting to display these, you should really be concerned about imminent violence. So we have some things not to do. Some fabulous list of do's and don'ts. So these are the don'ts. Don't give the patient orders. So we have talked before about people that are anxious and they need simple instructions, but there's a difference between simple instructions and ordering someone around. Don't give them the I don't give a damn attitude. So there's also a difference between not engaging with their anger, but also giving that kind of attitude back to them. Don't stare at them. Again, who has ever looked at a dog for too long? You stare at a dog for too long, they are going to try to bite you. If you stare at a human for too long, they will do the same thing, especially an angry one. Don't make threats. So again, I want to clarify this is you can set boundaries. That is different than making a threat. So, yeah.
Is it calling the police, like, or like threatening to call the police, like?
So you're not threatening to call the police. You are literally going to call the police if they keep doing this. So you're not. I understand that, and that's what I'm trying to make the clarification of is when you are setting. So there's a difference between saying, if you don't stop that, I'm going to call the police. They're going to come arrest you and take you to jail. That I would say is a threat. But if you say it as, if you continue this behavior, I'm going to have to call the police because this is inappropriate. That is you setting a boundary and explaining to them that this is inappropriate behavior and that you're not going to let it continue. Don't argue with them or offer compromises. So this one, again, there's a little bit of leeway in it in the sense that, again, we're not going to greet anger with anger, so we're not just going to argue. You can explain why you're doing the things that you're doing, but again, you're not going to argue with them saying things like, well, I went to school for a long time, I know what I'm doing. And the compromises here, this is them trying to have you not give into their anger violence, but what you can do, like sometimes if a patient is just angry and they don't want to go to the hospital and they're like, I'm not going to the hospital until I have a cigarette. If they're stable and, I'll say, you know what, if you want to have a cigarette, if that's what you want to do, as long as you feel stable, you're not dizzy or weak at all, you can go outside and sit down and have a cigarette. I'm going to be across the yard because I don't want to breathe in your secondhand smoke. And when you're done, we're going to go to the hospital. So there are some compromises, but again, if the patient was violent, I'm not giving them compromises. If they're violent, I'm just leaving that area. Again, you can't give compromises if it's a true emergency either, right? This is that circumstance where they're very stable. Don't become emotionally attached to the situation. Again, you're going to have a lot of emotions going on. Try not to get too involved emotionally in the situation. This person is angry or violent. I don't want to say don't let it bother you, but again, this is someone who doesn't know you. They're having whatever day they're having. Try not to let it bother you beyond the call. Oh, don't corner the patient. Oh, look, it was literally on the list of don't do's. And don't violate. Oh, again, don't get too up in their face. Yeah. And don't lie to them. So we never lie to patients. Semantically, we can say things. If someone says, "Are they going to die?" We're not going to lie to them, but we can say things like, "They're right now, they're not doing very well, but we're doing everything we can. We're going to get them to the hospital." So I didn't really answer their question because the answer is yes. But we don't say that. And don't turn your back. Oh, almost like you shouldn't corner or turn your back on someone that's going to hit you. So what are things that we should do? So monitor, a lot of these we already talked about. Allow someone to take it over the de-escalation if you're angry, frustrated, or fearful. Demonstrate self-confidence. Stay calm and relaxed. I think we've pretty much touched on all of these already. Keep your voice, tone, and volume controlled. Allow the patient to make choices. So this is, again, they can only make choices if it's appropriate for the situation. So if someone is angry because they don't want to get on the stretcher, if you can give them the choice to sit in the jump seat, if it's medically appropriate, then you can allow them to make that choice. Offer honest opinions and choices, and allow the patient to save face. So this means that after they've embarrassed themselves by acting like a child, because they've had a tantrum, and I say that because they do. Sometimes people just have tantrums. Allow them to save face and not feel, like regain that self-esteem back. And take your time with this. So, this is a patient who is post-traumatic stress, and they're picking the patient up. There are things in this video that are done well, there are things in this video that are not done well, so we'll watch it and then talk about them.
Dispatch number 697. Well, let's see. Community restraint. We got dispatch for a guy who might be a psychiatric patient.
There's no way on the bed, bud.
He's pretty strong. He's been threatening people and stuff. Apparently, he's having some flashbacks from the war.
Lay on your belly, brother.
We placed him on his belly because it's a lot harder for patients to swing at you and get violent when they're laying on their stomach.
Cuffs off, okay?
Here. Just put him in the back. He's pretty calm for right now. Anytime you're in the back alone with a patient, especially a psychiatric patient, it can change very rapidly. What are you sorry about?
Got a shotgun. I need it right now.
No, no shotgun. I'm gonna ask you some questions and I need you to answer, okay? Even though they're kind of silly.
Yeah, the officer told me just lay here, right? But I'm getting kind of antsy.
I know you are. You have post-traumatic stress syndrome?
That's what I'm not. Give me the gun, I'll just end it right now. I don't want to cause you no problem, them no problem, nobody. I just got a double barrel, just put it in my mouth, man.
No. Mitchell! Mitchell! No, nobody's looking at you. Look at me, I'm just a girl, okay?
I don't know that.
Do you hit women?
No.
Okay, okay.
Hey, put that leg down.
We restrained the guy again, and then what I tried to do from there was talk to my patient and try to bring him back from the world he was in to me. Listen to my voice. Listen to my voice.
No.
You're doing okay. Leonard, you're doing okay.
Hey, right up. I just want some bread. I ain't got no bread.
Doing good.
We're close.
I know. We're close.
We're in the chopper.
We're not in the chopper.
Go drive us. Go down.
Yeah, listen, you want me to, you want to drive and I'll sit back there with you, okay?
Tell you what, man.
Drive fast.
We got some problems. I'll fight for you.
I know we will.
You got a boot on.
I know. I've got boots on so nobody can step on my toes.
We're in the jungle.
No, not in the jungle. It's daylight out. We're gonna take you out of this place right now. Basically, all I did was just try to calm him down and keep him calm. As long as he was listening to my voice and realized that he was here instead of the other world that he thought he was in with the guns and the helicopter and everything, that everything would be okay. We're doing okay.
Can you imagine a whole battalion of crazy people like me?
No, I definitely couldn't.
Well, that's one of the words you're all about.
Okay, so, what do you guys think of that? Yeah, so we're gonna talk about prone versus supine at length in a couple slides, but we never do this. This video is also very old. It was on Vogue for a while, and then it was killing people, and so we don't do that. But we have a bunch of slides on it, so we'll talk about it after. What else?
was very calm.
She was calm, yeah. Yeah.
I like that she was using statements to bring him back to reality.
Yeah, so she has some okay statements to bring him back to reality. I think they could have been better. You know, no, we're not in the jungle, it's daylight out. Okay, daylight happens in the jungle too, right? So things like, you're not in the jungle, right now, you're in an ambulance. Do you see the stretcher you're on? Do you see the chair here? This isn't the jungle. Those would have been better. Yeah.
Maybe like you're in America right now, you're not in Vietnam or whichever place in Florida.
Mhm.
You know, what's interesting, I feel like the girl kind of looks Asian kind of, maybe that also triggered him, because
Oh, I have no idea.
like this probably Vietnam era.
No, what triggered him was her boots.
Her boots.
Oh. Yeah, so he's prone, he can only see down, and she's got basically combat boots on, because she has the really high top, steel-toed boots. That's why she was talking about her boots later. Because he said, you have boots, and she's like, yeah, I have boots so people don't step on my toes. That's what triggered her. Anything else? Yeah.
What kind of restraints did he have initially? I thought those were like cuffs, like were they soft restraints? 'Cause he got of them really.
They just used the stretcher straps.
Okay.
Yeah, this was a thing that people used to do. And we still do, like use the stretcher straps super tight so that they can't get up and stuff, but the other way, yeah.
In this case, can we have brought in police to just transport the patient because there's nothing medical?
There is something medically wrong with him. He has PTSD, he's having flashbacks. So, could police have ridden in the vehicle? Yes, but I think at the time when he began transport, he wasn't overly an issue, and I think she felt comfortable with it. Yeah.
Unless they kind of left him like half off the structure afterwards, they just like didn't move him back on.
Yeah, they didn't like retighten the straps very much, which is interesting. Yeah.
Would it have been better to have the bigger paramedic, so it would be the male in the thing and she'd be driving it?
So, I'm gonna disagree with that statement. I will say, something that was done well was that when he got out and came around the back, he said, do you want me to switch with you? And she said no. So, you do the same physical test, you are all able to do the job. Can someone who is 300 pounds and muscly do a better job of pushing over someone? Sure, I guess, but you shouldn't need to do that because you should be doing your job and they should be restrained. So it doesn't matter who's in the back. Sometimes actually, her being in the back might actually be better depending on what the flashbacks are in regards to. Yeah.
I would say like if we're speaking to those gender roles too, I wasn't sure how I felt at first when she made the comment of, I'm just a girl, like you're gonna hit a girl, but I was like, in this sense it was productive to say that because I feel like that did sort of de-escalate him, whereas I feel the male paramedic wouldn't have the same outcome if he was there potentially. Like, again, I was iffy about that comment. It's definitely not something I think I would have in my toolbox to use, but in this case it worked for her, but I was just, it caught my attention when she said it.
So I hate that comment. I hate it with a passion, because going back to you all do the same, like, job, it doesn't matter. I know why she said it. I think this video is quite old. I think it's from like 2009 or 10 or so. And then maybe society, that was a more appropriate thing to say. I don't think that it's something that you should leverage. I'm just a girl. You're not gonna hit a girl, are you? No, like, don't go there. There's so many other things you can say that are awesome things to de-escalate that situation that don't involve you bringing in the societal gender roles. So, I think best would have been that reorientation to reality. You know, we're in an ambulance, I'm a paramedic, I'm here to help you. All of that piece would have been a better piece to use. Because the other thing that I hate is how she's chewing her gum. So I'm not saying don't chew gum, I'm just saying don't like smack it with your mouth open the whole time. Like, it's the same as the cigarette hanging out of the mouth. I'm like, you let them record you doing these things. Sorry.
You think for bubbles?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure the bubbles breaking isn't gonna cause any further flashbacks. So, yeah, I think we covered pretty much everything there is to talk about that specifically. But yeah, so he has PTSD, he is having flashbacks. We're never ever gonna place someone prone. So when we talk about the use of restraints, we have to talk about it's the least harm for everyone. So we have to be safe, but we have to have the patient be safe as well. So restraints are very controversial, they're potentially dangerous. Sometimes we have no choice, we have to do it. 4-point restraint is the most common. Finally, prone position is not recommended. Prone position is not acceptable any longer. So this is the position that they used to use a lot of, the hog tie position. We just are not going to consider that. We are going to do this. So on your stretcher, you're going to, we have the soft restraints. That's what we have to use. You do one on each leg. You do one arm up and one arm down. So the reason being is if you put both arms down, they're able to leverage themselves up. But when you do this, they really can't actually move very much. And also it opens up the lungs so that their chest can still get a lot of air. Cover their mouth so they can't spit. Don't make your fingers accessible to them biting them. This does take quite a few people, so you're going to need extra hands to hold this person down. What else do I want to say about this? Yeah, we do raise the head 30 degrees. Okay, so before we watch these, the first video, the first one? Yes, the first video has a similar knee on neck hold to the one that was placed on George Floyd, amongst other restraint methods that are here. It is an old video, it's lengthy, there's still a lot of valuable info in it, especially on how holds have changed over the years. So we are going to see.
6-7 out with the signal 20, 600 block of 45th Street. What's up, buddy?
White male, no shirt,
Lay down. Lay down. What's going on, bro? Who? How much coke you smoke, man?
I don't do nothing. Oh, Lord.
Hey, do me a favor. What? Relax.
Please.
Okay, I'll help you.
Oh my God.
Hey, relax.
Oh, I don't be lower now. I'm sorry.
Relax. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
I'm on the ground.
Stay there. Hey, stay like that. Come here, dude.
Oh, my wrist.
Ow, stop. Hold on, the cars are gonna. Oh, fuck. Come here, dude. Come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here. Come here.
I'm sorry. Put your hand behind your back. 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 Now. Put your hands behind your back.
Relax. Just relax. Relax. Okay, just relax. I got both of them. Start the medics. Start medics, but We have more hobbles. Get him. Just grab him. I got him. Yeah.
I'm down here.
600 block. Let's go.
Officers here. Okay. Oh, Lord.
Help him with his legs, Luke. On my foot. Dude, get off of me. I'm not on your back. No, not you. I'm trying to help you, dude. But you gotta chill out a minute.
Please.
Relax.
I don't know. The cop hurting me. The cop me. Ow. Please deliver me.
Keep you hard yourself out there.
Here we go.
Ready? Take him out of the road. 1, 2, 3. Right there. Sit him up. Sit him up. Sit up.
You're a fucking devil.
Sit up.
There's me dying. Call the cop and kill me. Help me.
Yeah.
Father, I love you. Father, look at that. You love me. Wow. Why are you trying to kill me?
Hey, you need to chill out and sit up.
Leave me alone.
Sit up on your butt, man.
Why? Who are you, officer?
We're the police trying to help
What's your
you.
name? What do you help me do?
I'm Officer Shaw. I'm gonna help you, but you gotta help me.
What's your name? Say it now.
Yeah, we're just trying to, contain here.
Hey.
That's the guy that just called in, no tree.
Oh, I didn't take my shirt. You're lying. I had a joke.
Right, get your gloves on.
I'm gloves. I'm gloves. Get off of the house.
Keep still, right?
I'm gloves. Oh. Oh, who's the car?
Oh, we got him on already.
Don't you kill me? Yeah, I'm gonna get hooked.
It'll be good.
Don't kill me.
Let's go over, Luke. There's no one's on there.
Don't kill me. Don't please be good. Ow!
Stop it!
It's gonna be too loose. Yeah, here.
You gotta wrap it around.
Extra again.
I think we've reached the state of unconsciousness here, gentlemen.
Pretty fucking close.
Yeah, I think we've reached the state of unconsciousness, so let's, check
You
in.
gotta get him back up on his
Yeah,
butt.
check in. Yeah, yeah. Right now, we have officially reached the state of unconsciousness.
Get the bag. Get the bag.
I'm telling you right now.
Get a bag.
93 response, start the medics here.
You ready, dude?
Hey, hey, look at me.
Get your.
Make sure you breathe it. Undo the hobble if you have to.
I'm trying, dude. I can't get it.
Back going again.
He's got a pulse.
Okay. All right, he's probably gonna stay unconscious, so let's go ahead and undo the hobble, get the hobble, and get the hobble.
I need a light. I got it. Here it is. Get him up more. Sit him up. Get him up. All the way.
Yeah, take that hobble, hold on to the hobble.
Brother, get here.
Making it, yes.
Ready to have calls on?
I can't tell, Sarge. My heart's fucking already up, so I can't tell if this is. As long as you get there, the medics are on.
Lay back, let's do it for real. Let's get those handcuffs off, let's do it for real. Okay?
This is troughest.
Cuffs off.
I felt that.
Thank you.
Somebody give me a key.
Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up.
Get the one off, we'll flip him over on his back, we'll work him.
Yep.
And then somebody get that other cuff off.
Got it.
So he can't hit us with it when he wakes up.
That's it, let's do it for real, guys.
Handcuff.
Tilt it back. Get it over in his mouth. Get it over his mouth.
5 and 2, 5 and 2.
3, 4, 5, breathe. Twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe.
Check for signs of life.
Pulse.
None.
Yeah, we got it.
Got it, got it.
We got a pulse. Keep going? No, wait.
No, we got
Stop
breathe
this.
a second.
Is he breathing?
Stop this for a second.
Check his airway. Listen. Put your head down there and listen.
There you go, get down there.
It's not breathing.
Keep it back.
Keep bagging. Rescue breathing.
Take your time. A little slower.
Tilt his head more.
Yeah. Tilt it back more.
It's just crazy.
Find out that.
Oh my god.
Okay.
That's crazy. Bro, I'm cringing. Me too, bro.
This video. Let's talk for a bit and I'll tell you more. So, but going back to our substance use lecture. So this guy is likely, like at the very beginning, the cop's like, what did you take? How much coke did you do? He's like, I didn't do any coke. He didn't say if he did anything else. Are we suspecting that he did something else? Look how strong he is. I'm suspecting a different stimulant, again, possibly PCP. Bath salts, maybe. Ham. No, it's not an inhalant. This is going to be one of those ones that makes you not feel pain, not feel any of those things. So usually it's PCP, PCP is the most common excited delirium drug. This patient is likely excited delirium, given the fact that he is amped up, seems to have superhuman strength, doesn't respond to pain at all, really, right? So, speaking of some things, so how many times does that call say relax? Relax. No. So his communication wasn't great with the patient. There was a lot of cooperative communication between the cops, though. Right? I know a lot of you are like, this is chaotic, it's terrible. It was actually pretty good as far as you can get coordinated communication on a scene like that. And they were actively looking at things like, okay, this is happening, we're gonna do this is happening, we're gonna do this. They're not paramedics, they're not trained as well. There was no paramedics on that scene. They had not yet arrived. That BPM was in the back of a police cruiser. No, she just has gloves on. So cops also carry gloves. They've got a first aid kit, they've got gloves, and they've got like a BBM or face mask. It depends on the cop, but some of them will do that. So no, paramedics were not seen. So should we talk about it first? Let's talk about the neck hold. So you saw the neck hold. They did it for a little while and then they stopped. and then they were doing like a chest or back hold where the knee goes into the back. Both of those things, the neck and also the knee in the back, both compress the amount of space that you have to actually inhale. So you can't actually breathe and ventilate the same way you normally would, which is another reason why we try not to get patients to be prone. They knew this, right? And what they did in this is that they do it for a little while, then they stop, and then they try their best to get him up. So as soon as they get him off the road, they do try, they're like, we have to sit him up. So that, at least, is nice that they recognize that. This video came out right around the time when the knowledge was there that prone wasn't a good position. Did they still hog-tie him though? Yes. In an effort to make him unable to keep fighting. So I wrote this down here because I want you to be very cognizant when a cop tells you what happened before you got there. Make sure you ask how long they were held in either one of these positions or the prone position, because it's going to tell you the state of their internal. So you guys haven't done enough pathway yet to really understand, but it causes a metabolic acidosis or respiratory acidosis, and as you continue, bad things happen. So one of the reasons why these people go down this route is because the body can't do this anymore. So you saw at the very beginning he's fighting back. There's a lot of like grunting and like he's just like struggling. So there's a lot of that. That uses a ton of energy. It creates a ton of lactic acid. It causes hyperthermia. The drug that he's taking likely also causes hyperthermia. Hyperthermia also causes a bunch of acid to be released in your body. So you end up to become very acidotic. But also I want to know how long this patient had no, like, limited oxygenation. So then the patient starts deep breathing, and they said, like, oh, right? And I heard some of the class like, oh, he's calming down now. He's not calming down. He's actually decreasing his GCS. So it wasn't that he was just like, oh, I'm okay now, I'm safe. It actually was his GCS was decreasing, and then he becomes unconscious. They recognize this, and something else I thought they did well was recognize that he was unconscious. The cop's like, he's unconscious, he's likely not going to wake back up. Let's loosen this stuff and like try to get him in a better position. So again, there was some recognition that was happening. And then they realized they had to assist his breathing. So they got the BVM out. Was it great? No, but like, can you BVM someone sitting up? Yes.
Well, you can try it, but
No, you can do it. You can do it very effectively, but you cannot do it from the front of their body.
Yeah.
So you have to get around the back of their body and hold their head here, right? You can't be like, that's not working. You can not from the side of their body either. You have to be around the back. And then, so they start doing CPR according to heart and stroke. Like, they're doing 5 and 2. I heard some videos a while ago. They're doing what they know to do, but you heard them say like, no signs of life, like keep doing compressions. Like they don't know how to check the pulse as well and stuff like that. Then at one point they're like, there is a pulse, like someone there knows how to check a pulse. But for heart and stroke, for lay people, which is all that they're required to have as police, it's like for a while it was press there, if it blanches, like start CPR. Yeah. But I think whoever has the BVM has the healthcare provider level of CPR, so I think they're the ones that was finally able to find a pulse. But do any of you have any comments about anything that happened?
Well, was there a film?
This is one of those like cop shows.
Oh, like a show. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the beginning I noticed like when the cop pulls up, imagine from like the patient perspective, lights and sirens on, high beams are like facing the patient, and the cop is like standing over them. I can kind of like empathize with the patients, like you're just getting hit by so much light and stimulus. You can't even understand what's going on, and the cop is like standing over them, and then I can understand why the patient's feeling that way, you know?
As a paramedic, we don't want to get too close, right? But also, you're right, the PCP or whatever drug this person is likely on is also going to dilate the pupils. And so by having all of that light, they're actually going to even receive more of it. So there's such a thing as creating light in the environment so that you can actually see because it is dark, but also not like shining it directly at the patient. And then walk. For all we know, he's seeing aliens, and you've just come out of a white light. Anything else? Yeah.
Love it again as the previous thing. Love it. Put on obviously privilege. Unless he goes threatening other like people, jump in traffic or run away.
So I think the cop was called because he was half naked wandering around in traffic. That's why the cop says to him like tried to get him. He was off to the side and he was like, oh, don't do that. He's like, no, don't run into traffic. He is a danger to himself.
Right away, two cops should have got his name because his first was sometimes wasn't the first day.
Yeah, I mean, he did start initially like he's talking to him. And, cops don't work in pairs anymore. They're all their own cruisers. The other cops were called to the scene, but they didn't arrive at the same time. I don't know why. I don't know why they stopped their partnerships and they each have their own cruiser, but that's a cop question. Anything else?
I was concerned by how they were holding C-spine, like they basically held it by his head, like by his hair at one point.
Yeah. I don't think they're holding C-spine.
Oh, they're just trying to hold their head up.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's relevant, I don't know if it was just like the drugs that he was on, but initially when the cops approached him, he was kind of like on his belly, like splitting. And to me, that looks like respiratory distress, like he's trying to like flatten himself out and make himself like the surface area bigger. So like, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, maybe he already has some sort of respiratory depression, and now you just like amplified it by doing all of this restricted movements.
I mean, it's unfortunate that he got up at all, right? Like, I think that if the cop hadn't gotten so close to him and had tried to stay away, not shone a bunch of lights at him, and like tried to just stay back, get down, and be like, hey buddy, like, you're on the grass, what's going on? What's happening? We may have not seen him struggle, get up, and then be like wobbling all over the roadway, which is what started the cop's decision to be like, no, he's a danger to himself, I'm gonna prone him, hog tie him, and do all these other things. So how we approach the situation initially can also alter the path of the events. Do you guys have anything else?
Question for the why is it not effective when somebody's saying in front?
You can, okay, so with the BBM, you're supposed to be taking the jaw and pulling it up, right? Not pressing. If you're in front of the person and you're doing this, what are you doing?
Pressing.
Yeah, you can't get a good face mask seal. It's impossible. Don't try it. Anything else? Okay, so now is the part where I let you know that he died.
Whoa.
Yeah. So at the end of this video, they're like, oh, we have a pulse. But he doesn't have it much longer. And so this is excited delirium, is something that you will learn more about, I think, in patho once you understand all the patho of it. But it goes, they take the drugs, or they are fighting back, which uses tons and tons of energy. Tons of lactic acid is produced. They're going, like, breathing really fast. They become acidotic. They start to have their GCS lower because of the acidosis. They become unconscious, and then their heart stops. So the cops made it worse. But in this video specifically, they are actively, it is evident that they had a staff meeting and training on excited delirium somewhat recently to this happening, because previous to this, you would have just seen them be like, yeah, just hold him down the whole time. They recognized, like, okay, he was down, he has to come up, we have to do this. Okay, he's approaching unconsciousness. They knew that after the unconsciousness, he was likely not to wake up. They called the paramedics very early on, right? So I think, I don't want to say cops did well. They didn't do well. It's just, there's examples that are far worse than that. Yeah.
Was them starting concussions the right thing to do while they had a pulse?
They didn't have a pulse at that point.
No, I mean, like the person said that I can't find the pulse sarge.
So for them, because they work under heart stroke, they're not expected to be able to find a pulse. And so he's not breathing, and that's heart stroke was at the time. For you, you're gonna find a pulse because you know how to take one. How old is this? Pre-2010. Yeah. Like it is an old video, but I think it's one that has a lot of value, like educational value in it.
How far out were the paramedics?
I know the paramedics came and the resuscitation was done and I think it's done. You have to be very, very, very cautious with excited delirium patients. So if I were to show I was using ketamine and sedate them, but even then I would be very cautious and I would ask Teresa a lot of questions about what happened before I got there and get them to the hospital as soon as possible because they need a lot of care. Yeah.
If you were the first one seen, would you ever approach them, or you just wait for police?
It depends on what, like, safety precautions. Likely, I would have pulled the truck up, rolled the window down. Hello? Okay, are you okay? Do you want some help? And then maybe, like, stay far back and try to have a conversation. It just depends on what you think about safety. I know that the cops in this situation didn't make it better. Could it, if it had started on a different note, could it have ended on a different note? Yeah. But I will give them the fact that they at least recognize these things, as opposed to just, no, I'm a cop and I'm gonna hold them down because I can, because they're resisting, or something like that. Okay, so I'm gonna finish this up. There's another video I want to show you next week. So let's finish up next week. Oh, your video projects are due next week by 8:30. Don't forget me like that. We're all next Tuesday, right?